Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to Get Focused with Focus Consulting Group. I'm Liz Severns. I'm a partner here at Focus Consulting, and I am joined by Brian Kozlowski, my partner, and a very special guest today, Jim Boyne, president at Weitz Investment Management. Welcome, Jim.
Happy to be here. Thanks, Liz.
Great.
Brian.
Absolutely. So, for those of you who don't know, Weitz, founded in 1983 by Wally Weitz, and they are an independent, employee-owned equity and fixed income um, investment manager headquartered in Omaha, Nebraska. And Jim joined Weitz in, I believe it was 2018.
Yes.
Um, but boy, Jim, we've known you a long time and have been
Yeah.
very privileged to encounter you over the years in many different areas, and we're really excited to have you here.
Thanks. Thank you. Yeah, we were
Absolutely.
excited to work with you guys on this project, and we think it turned out really well and is beneficial for us going forward.
Yeah, and we're excited to share with the listeners today on what you all did at White's because it's really timely from our perspective. Brian and I were just chatting about that because over the last, several weeks, we saw a Harvard Business Review article about measurement and measuring trust in particular. And we just did a podcast about being thoughtful and planful for 2026 because people really in 2025 were so performance focused and really on the short termism and how important it is not to be that way. So we are glad to have you here to talk about what you guys have been doing. So we'll jump right in. I think it was about a year ago, you guys at White's, everyone at White's participated in our organizational health survey. Can you share with our listeners why you thought it was a good time to measure your organization? White's has always focused on their values. You guys have been very value centered and culture oriented since when we knew you. So why did you guys think it was a good time to measure your organizational health and with a third party?
Yeah, I think I always believe that culture and mission, vision, values are very important, and I think with an organization that's more than 40 plus years, there's an assumption that everybody that works at White's, and we had a lot of long tenured employees, all understand what we stand for, what the culture is, what our values are. And you guys did some work with White's before I joined the firm, strategic planning and some discussion around mission, vision, values. They began to work on that project, but never fully finished it. And I joined the firm, and we incorporated some of that into our planning as I kind of got in the seat, and we started looking at what was next. But what happened to us was we went through a period of time where there were some organizational changes, operational, as well as how we did business. And that resulted in some folks separating from the firm, which was very challenging for a firm like White's that had people who were long tenured, and we treated them very well as they parted. But we talked about when is the right time for us to measure how people feel about
Yeah.
White's. So fast forward, COVID hits, and so we kind of stumbled. We knew this was something that we wanted to tackle, and as we went through this period of time, we knew that there's a difference in our employee base. We had a lot of long tenured employees, but then over the next 4 or 5 years, we had people who were less than 5 years tenured at White's.
Mm.
And so trying to understand, are we hitting on all cylinders, and how do people really feel about what's going on within White's, was something that was important to us. And lo and behold, your organizational health survey was a great tool because not only were we able to get everybody's feedback on an anonymous basis, but also create some slices of that. And we sliced the less than 5 years tenured folks with the more than tenured folks, more than 10 years of tenure. And not surprisingly, we found differences in
Mm.
opinion on what our culture and values were at that point in time, and then what
Mhm.
aspirationally people wanted them to be. And,
Yeah.
the good news is things like ethics and things like client centricity were all things that bubbled up to the top. But, there was some differences, and we wanted to really honor the opinions of the 40 plus people who participated in the survey, yet incorporate it in a way that everybody felt like they were heard. So that's kind of the genesis for the why. We wanted to do something, but the timing took us a while, and it was May of 2024 when we finally got around to doing it. And I think we all think it was a valuable exercise, and we took it seriously.
The scores you guys got and comparing them to our broad database. And it's a real testament to the work you and Wally and Drew have put into the firm and the emphasis on the values and the emphasis on the importance of culture. And some firms might have looked at that data and said, "Yeah, this is great. Hey, everybody, thanks very much," and put it on the shelf and reevaluate it in 18 months. That's not at all what you guys have done. You didn't file them away, and you guys have been really active working on it. So I'd be really interested if you could share with the listeners some of the things you've implemented as a result of what you've learned from the survey.
There were two themes. One was, in terms of the rankings, we were good, not great.
Hmm.
Um, but as we were comparing ourselves to your peer group of folks who uh, were scored, we feel like those people, your cohort, are folks who care deeply about this, or they wouldn't have
Absolutely.
done it. So maybe it was a tough competitive group we were up against. But when I
Yes,
see
it is.
good, not great, I think all of us thought we can do better. And there was a gap analysis of what we could be doing better. But the first thing that we thought was we people really don't know what we stand for. Generally, they do, but we've got to get clarity around our mission and our vision and our values. And we had a broad group of people contributing to this. And I've done some work with you folks in the past, and in another context. If you put it on the shelf, you don't instill it in anybody. And I've been in organizations where we put our values on business cards, and people need to see it and live and breathe it. So we kind of crystallized our mission, our vision, and our values. And we kind of blew out the values like, okay, we have the, aligned interests. Well, what does that mean? And there's subsets of what that means. And then we break that out even further to tell people, here's what we'd expect if your interests were aligned. And we invest alongside our clients, so that's part of it. But just, our client centricity and serving the client first is something that's important to us. And it's more than about investment performance, although that's important. So we executed on that by creating a whole pitch book, if you will, that kind of broke down all of this, and we distributed it in a number of ways. Just sent it out to employees, but we also did a voiceover video so that we could put our own touch on it as we worked through it. And obviously, externalizing it through the website, et cetera, was something we were proud to do. And we married that with a brand video that we had put together that we think is representative of those themes that we had identified in the mission, vision, values work. And we've got signs. I've got one in my office here, and we have signs around the office just reminding people that that's what we stand for. And we've taken yet another step as we think about things like performance evaluation. We were looking at updating and making better our performance evaluation process. Well, we can weave in some of these themes of behaviors within the core values that people can think about to kind of bring that front and center. So we feel pretty good about what we've done. You can always do a better job in this, but trying to bring together the less than 5-year tenured folks with those who have been here more than 10 years. And you can see in the results, the folks who have been here more than 10 years, the scores were better. They understood the organization better. They'd been around long enough through osmosis to understand more of who we are. But Now I feel like we're better positioned, and we're trying to do things like more social and professional activities among all employees to try to bring folks together. We did for 2 years now, we did a pickleball team building
Okay.
competition, and we get together. We try quarterly to do that, just to try to break down the walls of maybe age, for example,
Mhm.
or generational differences, and just trying to make people feel good about the team that they work with. Your tool was a way to just supercharge this and really got us focused in on where we thought we needed to go. So we met with the team after the results and kind of gave transparency around what we saw, so people understood that it wasn't just a spin. I don't mean to be cynical about it, but this is actually what we saw, and we're going to take some steps to try to address these things, trying to hit the big ones, because you can't win them all on day one. But for a small firm, I think we've executed well on the messaging. Now, instilling it, pushing it through performance evaluation, and trying to get people focused on it day in and day out, um, is is a continuous challenge and opportunity. Got to keep it
Yeah,
front
because
and
it's a
center.
process, right? It's a process. It's not a one off or a project you do. It's something
Right.
that is a process and not just, something you always have to work on. But I love the fact that you created something together, right? Because you do have, differences, obviously natural differences and, generations and tenure and experience and things like that. But you were able to bring people together by really creating something that got the input of everyone. They didn't have
Yeah.
decision rights, but they had input rights as to how the organization wanted to be.
And I think the transparency in that and having you guys present it with us was helpful to build trust that this is what we got, and we're going to take steps to improve it. And I'm kind of a romantic as it relates to core values. I believe that you should be able to make decisions based on your core values. I mean, if you keep them in your head, you make the best decisions, um, that are true to those values. And you should be able to measure people based on core values. Are they behaving within our integrity, within our core values? And it's not an easy discipline individually, or collectively, but that's something that we strive for here. We're too small not to have people behaving the way we all expect and behaving in a way that's respectful and client centered. Every person matters here. We're not a large behemoth, and if somebody's not following or not aligned with all of the values, we need to get everybody in line. And I think we're all committed to that.
Yeah, and I love the fact that you define them. I think that's a real key to what you're trying to achieve is that people really understand what does it mean to be client centric at
Yeah.
White's? What does it mean to be collaborative? And you're right, then you can measure it.
Right. Yeah. Breaking it down, going down two more levels from, here's the core value, here's the three things that it stands for. And then within the three things, here's what that actually means. We found that really helpful. You debate how far is too much, but we think we struck a good balance. And so far, I think the feedback's been positive. Um, and, uh, and we're glad to continue to work through it. And
Yeah.
I sent it back to you and we were talking about this to show you that, hey, we appreciated it. We did something that we thought was constructive and beneficial for us. And we wanted to give you that feedback loop to say it mattered here.
Yeah. And this is our way of giving you feedback. It was fantastic. What you guys really did was really remarkable uh, with the results because, like you said, you didn't have far to go, and you're right. You were being compared to our database, which are people who tend to care about this stuff, right?
Yeah.
And so you're right. When you compare yourself to the database, it is you can go, But when you really remember that these are, top of the top organizations or people who really care about this stuff, you didn't have far to go, and yet what you did was really remarkable. So congratulations to all of you at White's.
We appreciate that, and we're grateful that we had a great roadmap to push it through. And this in this business, and the longer I'm in it, it's all about the people and trying to bring the next generation or generations along into it and make sure you keep the consistency of what's been built and started so many years ago. It's important.
But there are two other things that I want to highlight that you guys did as a firm. First of which is putting the values up around the firm. The firms we work with that have the strongest cultures, that's what we find when we walk into their offices, whether it's in the reception on tombstones and meeting rooms, they're there, and it's they're unapologetic about what they are. Here's who we are, and it speaks volumes to the way those values become part of the organization, it becomes part of the fabric. And the third piece, just on the video, which I really struck me. First of all, it speaks of the differences in the demographics that you have, how people absorb information. So I thought that was great. But I also thought was great, it was the voices of all the leaders in the organization
Yes.
from one to the next. It wasn't just Wally or yourself or Drew or others. It was everybody throughout the organization. And that really said a lot to me as, hey, we all take this seriously. We speak as one voice. And that's an important cultural element. So all of those three, from a best practices perspective, those certainly were there. I have one question. How's your pickleball game?
Actually, I was a late starter to pickleball, but I've enjoyed it and watching the team get out there and get after it and really enjoy it. It was something to see. I actually posted something up on LinkedIn. There was a video, a couple of videos of people commenting on the experience. It was fun.
Yeah,
Amazing.
my mother-in-law lives in North Carolina, and this is my last pickleball comment. And it was started, it seemed to have started in the South, at least for in my eyes. And she was telling me about it one day, and I'm like, what is this thing? It'll never catch on. Never catch on. We'll never play it in the Northeast, is where I live. Yeah. Apparently I'm not the trendsetter, so don't listen to me when it comes to sporting
It
activity.
it's everywhere. It
Oh,
is
it
It's
is.
everywhere.
everywhere.
That's great. I think our listeners, as we conclude, would be really interesting. Those that listen on a regular basis know the importance of three to us, the rule of three. Just a couple of pieces of advice for those that might be sitting out there, having read all the articles on culture, saying, this sounds interesting. Why would they want to do this? What do they want to learn? What pieces of advice could you give to them as they sit in a chair like yours and consider, should I go ahead and evaluate how and why should I evaluate our organizational health?
Yeah. I think for longevity and sustainability, it's critical that you ask the people what they really think. And
Mm.
you'd love to think that you could just ask directly and get candid feedback. That's hard, especially
Absolutely.
for newer employees who don't have the 10 or 15 or 20 years with the firm and the gravitas to say what's on their mind. I feel like the less than 5 year folks were pretty candid in the survey. So, I'd rather see what's in front of me instead of having it buried down. And then you start to lose people, and you hear about it in exit interviews, or they don't say anything. People don't like
Yeah.
to give exit interviews because they never want to burn a bridge. So,
Yep.
I mean, this is a great opportunity in a positive way to get the feedback that you need. And, Liz, you said these weren't decision rights, but it was what were we willing to do about it? And I think as an organization and from a leadership perspective, there were things we felt we could definitely do to make it better and make people understand better who we are. So,
Yeah.
and again, I go back to these businesses are about people. It's all your biggest asset goes in and out the door every day, and
Absolutely.
you want to keep people happy and aligned and know that they believe in what you're doing.
Absolutely. And it is hard to give leaders feedback, right? You know, even in organizations where there's higher levels of trust, like you all have, it's still hard to sit your leaders down and say, hey, I need more development.
Even if they do get feedback, it can get watered down pretty
Yeah,
quickly.
absolutely.
The hedging or as opposed to just saying, here's how I see it. And
Yeah,
we got a lot of that. And the good news is we're in pretty good shape. The bad news is
absolutely.
we weren't great. And for a small organization like this, I think we have the potential to be great. I don't want to
Anything
make this
else?
commercial about you guys, but doing it for I've done it myself with a team, and it's very challenging to do that. And I was really impressed. I thought this could be a survey in a can, and we customized it, we tailored it to the issues that were germane to whites. I think it's worth the investment. Saved me a ton of time. I would have been the tip of the spear or working with my HR team to try to put all this together. And you had something we could quickly tighten up and make it what we needed it to be. I want to work with
Absolutely.
great people. I want to work with good people, and putting the roadmap for what that looks like collectively helps keep everybody on side.
That rang true for Keith and myself a few years ago. We were sitting at lunch with a CEO and just happened to ask the question, what keeps you up at night? And there are a million things as a president, as a CEO, rogue trades, the markets. He said, it's very easy. There's an elevator at the end of my office, and my biggest assets go up and down in that elevator every single day. And every night they go down, and there's no guarantee they're going to come back up the next day. And without them, I don't have a business. And it's very eloquently put when you think about it in that perspective. This is the people business. So, that's why we think this is such an important element, because it gives you a good perspective of how folks view the organization, the areas of strength, the areas that you need to work on, and direct feedback.
You want it to be fun. We spend
Absolutely.
we spend so much time working with our teams. You want it to be fun. And I was talking
Great.
to a friend about this the other day. One of the most rewarding parts of my career is the people I've met, the friends I've made, the mentorship that I've done, and those relationships continue. I mean, people have moved on, and they're real relationships. And doing this kind of work and understanding that you're all on the same page just helps facilitate that long, long into the future.
And people perform better when they're happier, when they're aligned with the people they work with, when they're
Right.
having fun.
Well, fun
Performance
was
is better.
fun was a hard word for me in this business. Highly competitive, hard charging.
Absolutely.
But I've come to learn, you get a lot more out of people when they're having fun and when they have good,
Absolutely.
positive relationships. So,
Yeah, and that's something you can control within your organization, right? Everybody's having fun when the markets are strong and performance is really good, but that's not something y'all can control. Uh, how the markets are doing.
right,
But you can control what's happening within your organization and make sure that people are feeling that fun and feeling that lightness, even when sometimes business isn't so
right,
fun.
right. If you roll everything up to the top goal or an issue, it you got to break it down and celebrate successes along the way,
Absolutely.
individual successes, just social gatherings that we have. I mean, we're still competitive. We had a chili cook-off a couple weeks ago. I mean, it was very
Yep.
hard charging, and um, but we also get after it and work hard every day too. Culture work helps you strike the right balance and hopefully capture your entire employee base in doing it.
Yeah.
Jim, thank you for joining us on this most recent episode of our podcast. We always enjoy talking to you and look forward to seeing you soon.
Thanks very much, guys, for everything.
Thanks, Jim. And again, congratulations on your results and putting them to really good use to create that sustainability since you've been around for so long and continue it in the future. So thank
Thank you.
you to you and to everyone at Weitz.